Hello, everyone. It's good to have you once again here to the third roundtable regarding the Metaverse. It's a pleasure to have with me all three panelists. We have Mariona, we have Mónica, and we have Isabelle too. So thank you very much for the three of you to be here in this lovely afternoon. So we're going to talk about what's going on with the future of the metaverse. So you are three great experts, and I hope that the audience will like to know more about you. So please, Mónica, tell us a little bit, what are you doing about that?
Hello, thank you very much, Joaquim. Thank you all. Well, I'm Mónica Rodríguez. I'm manager at KPMG Spain. We are focusing mainly on innovation and digital transformation of the legal function. And of course, nowadays, we are specialized on metaverse, NFTs, artificial intelligence, and emerging technologies in this kind of project. So I'm very happy to be here and share with you a little bit of my knowledge.
Thank you very much, Mónica. It's a pleasure. Isabelle, tell us a bit more about you.
So hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you all. Thanks for inviting Joaquim and all your team for organizing. So my name is Isabelle Hupont. I work at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. I'm talking from Seville, Spain. And well, basically, I belong to a group that is called RocaJunyent, and we do human-centered artificial intelligence, AI, and well, in particular, my expertise is on face recognition and affective computing. And now, well, I'm also involved in all the regulations at the European level involving AI and digital platforms.
Oh, it sounds amazing too. And finally, Mariona, good to have you back here once again. Please tell us a bit more about you.
My pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting this forum today. I'm Mariona Campmany. I'm the digital identity lead at Mitek. Mitek is a company that leads the digital access and digital verification in this world. We try to just bridge the physical and the digital world, and we are experts in digital identity.
Well, I think that we have three great experts from different areas. We're going to talk about Metaverse. So I think it's a great topic for those days, due to the fact that crypto is not interesting anymore due to the downgrade. So Metaverse is the future. And we're going to start, well, talking about what could be done, what we could do as a company in the metaverse. So Mónica, tell us a little bit more how you could structure a simple company to become part of this metaverse.
Great. Well, that's the $1 million question. There is not only one way, but one thing I'm sure of is that now is the right time to adopt a test and learn mindset, to be open to experiment, move on quickly from failures and capitalize on success. So basically, from our experience, we understand that the first thing to do is a legal and strategic training or workshop where the best investment opportunities are identified, aligning always both business and legal areas. So the goal here is to get the main stakeholders of the company on the same page regarding objectives, goals, and expectations. So once that we have done that, secondly, it is crucial to conduct an analysis of specific opportunities and use cases according to your specific business strategy. Once that you know the business case, the business model, it is very important to identify the platforms that provide the best opportunity and brand fit. So right now we have a lot of different platforms such as the Centerland, Fortnite, Roblox, Meta Horizon Worlds. Some will be better than others for specific purposes. And of course, then we will move on to the development at technological level. And it is important to take into account the legal aspects before implementation in order to assess the viability of the project in the long term. Because what you don't want is that invest all of the money and all of the investment and money in the technology and the team, and then because of regulation, it is stopped by. So a regulatory verification must be carried out, and the legal implications that you may have to take into account could be terms and conditions on the platform, the legal nature of NFTs, image rights in avatars, data protection, IP rights. So a lot of different kind of laws that you have to take into consideration to be sustainable in the long term.
Wow, it sounds amazing from one side, and from the other, it sounds really, really, really dramatic. Talk about regulations and Metaverse. Isabelle, due to the fact that you are an expert and you are working with all these things, do you think that artificial intelligence, how we know those days, could help that in the Metaverse, or should change in one way or another? We need to implement other kind of new technologies. What's your thoughts about it?
It's super difficult to predict how it will evolve at this stage. I think we will only be able to say after deployment of the Metaverse, but I can have intuitions, no, as an expert in AI. So we have all this way from real world to fully virtual world, and we are talking about mixed reality, about extended reality, virtual reality, immersive environments. So this translates into data and more data created. We already are in the era of data. Data is the raw material needed for AI. It's just, I always say the same sentence, that data is a new gold nowadays. No, so the more data you have, the best AI algorithm you can train and have in the market. So I was doing a bit of research about how the Metaverse is expected to push the data usage, and according to several forecasts, it is expected to increase 20 times the amount of data in the next 10 years. I think that there are other forecasts that are even, let's say, more generous with the forecast. So the question is, which kind of data will be created? We don't know. Okay, we will see new, very large online platforms. We already knew the ones existing in the real world. No, we know. I could say a couple of names, but well, we know, of course, Facebook, then now will be Meta, Instagram, and so on. We also have recommender systems that are another kind of data generators. I can say Spotify, Netflix, Amazon. So how will these very large online platforms evolve with this new community of users that might be created? How will recommender systems evolve in the Metaverse, and which will be the nature of this new data? And the big question is, will we be able to use this new data together with real world data, for instance, to train new artificial intelligence algorithms? This is on the one hand. On the other hand, we have very widely well-established technologies now in the real world. For instance, and my expertise is face recognition, so face recognition is very well established. How will be face recognition in the Metaverse? Also, we will have our digital twins, no, let's say avatars. We will have AI-guided avatars versus human-guided avatars. How will this artificial intelligence versus human-guided avatars evolve in the Metaverse? Also, we will have new interaction paradigms. This is especially important for affective computing, which is my other research topic. How will we interact how will be our emotions shared in the Metaverse? How will users engage emotionally, and so on? So these are extremely very open questions.
Wow, I thought in the past that half my Teslas or my Apple's stocks will be gold, or then be Bitcoin, but nowadays I think that has to invest in data. So we're in uncertain times. We have no regulation. We are in this kind of Metaverse. That's a lot of data. I don't know how we could be identified in this kind of Metaverse in one or other. Mariona, could you put a light on that, because it's too much darkness?
I'll try, I'll do my best. But I think that the idea of metaverse and avatars can only work if we are sure that the users we communicate with have a real people behind them, right? And not only that, but also if those people present themselves in a genuine way. For example, they are not lying about their gender or the age, right? Clearly, this kind of virtual world cannot exist securely without some version of what I call the frictionless authentication. To Isabelle's point, it's also the biometrics, right? The idea itself would be that each user would have like a kind of interoperability with what we would call his or her digital twin, right, in the metaverse. In other words, just to make it simple, it's a single digital identity for all activities carried out in the virtual world, like we do in the physical world, right? And in this technology, the decentralized blockchain-based systems could be a solution to this, as the platforms would not own or store the user's identity, and it will be the user, the individual, who owns his or her own identity, right? The digital identity verification processes should be put in place that cover the user's entire journey through the metaverse. Avatar onboarding, re-verification, and continuous monitoring are essential steps to ensure that, that the user is who they say they are at each and every stage. When someone does something as an avatar, an identity and I call it vitality check should be performed in the background, right? Identity in metaverse should be considered almost like a genetic code that confirms biological identity. The idea is that we can move through different environments within the metaverse using our alter ego.
Wow. I think that I will need another explanation about that, because it's too much information about. So all the things that you are explaining, Mariona, I think it's quite thought-provoking. I think it's like a Copernican turn. So Isabelle, how all these new, I would say, new definitions or new paradigm could be interpreted or at least regulated under the European Union? Because I think it's quite tricky, quite difficult with something that has not already born, like Metaverse. It's really in pretty early stages, try to be regulated. So how is your experience about that?
Yeah, so as you say, it's very difficult to regulate such technologies, especially because they evolve very rapidly, and you never know, the path they will follow. Currently, at least in Europe, I can speak from the European perspective, of course, but well, I would say that Europe is the first continent starting to work on a serious regulation for artificial intelligence in that sense. So we have this AI Act that is in proposal phase. We are trying to regulate artificial intelligence, and it's not easy. So in the end, we do not regulate technology as such. We regulate the intended use of the technology. So for instance, the AI Act regulates not the fact that you are using a deep neural network or this algorithm or this other algorithm to build your product. It regulates the intended use you will have for this product. So I think that the current AI Act that is under proposal, it is in proposal phase. It has been nowadays discussed between co-legislators from the European Commission and member states from Europe. Nowadays it regulates the real world. It does not regulate cyber worlds. We have another regulation that is the Digital Service Act, which aims at regulating very large online platforms. But we have the same, we are at the same point here, at proposal stage, so still negotiations ongoing. How will the metaverse enter into these regulations if the cyber world is not covered by them? So we have two possibilities. With my colleagues at the European Commission, we we usually say, hey, in 5 years, we will have the Metaverse Act, because we will need to regulate the Metaverse by itself, I mean, in a separate manner, but perhaps we'll be able to adapt to the current state of technology, these ongoing regulations on artificial intelligence and digital platforms. Let's see. It's very difficult to predict. Again, I'm always saying it's difficult to predict. It's difficult to predict, but indeed it is, and because the possibilities are almost infinite.
We say that the problems of yesterday's and today's internet, like impersonation, impersonation, attempts to steal credentials, social engineering, so will be with us in the metaverse. So it's a migration, right? So I think that what we've been talking about the regulation so far also will be in the regulation of metaverse.
Yeah, and indeed, sometimes you may say, oh, now you are regulating AI 20 years late. Yeah, but it is the first regulation on AI. And yes, 20 years late, but hey, we couldn't do it before. Now it is well established, no? So we have to wait until it is well established to regulate.
Yeah, sometimes it's even better to let the technology flourish to see the potential of it. Because if we start to regulate without letting the business models and the technology doing itself their own business and their own path, we are not gonna innovate. So yeah, I think of course I'm a lawyer, so I will be on the part of regulation, but let's regulate the use and not the technology. Yes.
I think that I have not to speak much more, because I think that you're doing pretty well without me. But instead, I have to be being this moderator. I'm going to ask you, Mónica. So the fact that it's have not regulation yet, that we are still dealing with artificial intelligence and this new European Act, do you think that it's a passing fad, the metaverse, or it's something that's going to stay? Because there are some people who say, okay, it's another kind of technology. We've heard it every single 2 or 3 years as a new revolutionary technology. It's going to change the world. But most of this technology are still applying, but are not changing. Do you think that the metaverse is something like that, or it's going to stay as internet happened at the end of the 90s?
Well, no one can guess, but in my beliefs, like I completely believe that the metaverse is here to stay, and this is just the beginning. So I say that mainly for 4 reasons. Let's say I have a lot of reasons, but 4 main reasons. First of all is the ongoing technological advances. So technical challenges must be still overcome, but there are constant improvements in computing power that will allow larger virtual worlds to exist. Also the evolution of cloud and edge computing, artificial intelligence, as you have been saying, the rapid adoption of 5G, all of this is enabling mobile devices to access to different and larger worlds more easily. And also, the more the time passes, the cost of production of augmented reality, virtual reality hardware is declining. So this is one huge reason. Also, the investments in metaverse infrastructure. We have seen that the last year, Meta invested $10 billion in the metaverse. Other tech companies have also committed big resources to building it. A very recent report of McKinsey say that it estimates a spending of $5 trillion by 2030. So there are a lot of money going on there, and when there are a lot of money and a lot of recognized companies investing on it, I think that is a huge reason to believe on the metaverse. Other thing is that more use cases are being developed. Of course, now gaming is the winner. Is the metaverse ready? Like it already has mainstream traction. But the more days pass, the more that the consumer use cases are now expanding into new emerging sectors such as entertainment, sports, educational experiences, retail, even government entities are in the metaverse. We have seen, for example, the Seoul metaverse plan that they want to be there for at least the next 5 years building it. So the use cases will start. This is a challenge, but the use cases will appear in the future. And the last reason that I think that is huge, and that maybe we all don't understand because we are in another generation, but we have to understand that the demographics, the generation Z consumers are the latest in their mid-20s. And they are gonna be an income earning force in the next years. And they are customers that are more familiar to virtual worlds, transactions, codes than the previous generation. So I think that the demographics are very important, taking into account who is gonna be in the metaverse for the next years.
Yeah, and if I can to this point, so a lot of reports and analysts are saying and predicting that a lot of people will spend hours in the metaverse in 10 years at the minimum, right? And I think that rather an optimistic prediction that is not misguided when we consider that the amount of immersive experiences that we are already getting into, right? The way we interact nowadays with the brands that are online or we purchase that can only be consumed in a purely virtual space, right? Mm-hmm. So I believe that the metaverse nowadays is ideal for experimentation at the moment. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, companies have not fully created paradigms, so they have not yet produced the best success stories. Mm-hmm. And one challenge is that each company has a different vision of metaverse, right? The fact that each metaverse operates independently means that the idea of one big metaverse is currently not possible. It's impossible, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about today. The predictions are very optimistic, and I agree with them. No? But the metaverse as a shared global virtual world implies that all companies that are involved will have to join forces. So maybe we're gonna have the regulation for one side. I don't know if it's gonna be a regulated environment. I don't believe so. I think that it's not gonna be regulated. But for sure, the companies will need to join forces. And talking about the next iteration of the internet in the medium term is perhaps nowadays too ambitious. That's what I see in terms of maturity.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My question would be, will companies join forces? I really hope so. I would like to strengthen what Mónica said. No, we are in the right technological moment for the metaverse. I mean, I will take my academic hat. No. In academia, we have been working in fully immersive experiences, for instance, for fighting phobias in the psychological domain, for affective computing. I mean, it's nothing new, no? The fact of using virtual reality to share experiences with people, to fight isolation, to interact with people in gaming and so on. But now it is the right technological moment because we have the force, no? We have the cloud, we have the computational power, we have these data storage possibilities that we didn't have before. It's the same like as what happened with deep learning and so on. So only now it is possible to think about this big idea of the metaverse that is here since the 90s, I would say. No? So let's see if big techs, unfortunately, will join forces. And I am especially concerned about SMEs. Before joining the European Commission, I was working in Herta. It is an SME in Barcelona. They do face recognition, and it's very hard for SMEs to enter this world. And I mean, I'm worried about the position of SMEs in this big cake, because there are very innovative things proposed by SMEs, from haptic interfaces to new AI algorithms, avatars behaving, I mean, driven by computer vision algorithms, so that they can move like you, look like you, 3D scan objects and translate them into the virtual world, and blah, blah. At least in Europe, this is done by SMEs mostly. In Europe, we don't have such big unicorns as in the States, for instance. No, I would like SMEs to enter the metaverse.
Wow, I think that we covered most everything, but I have to say that, like Monica, I'm a lawyer too, and I'm a bit worried about security. And it seems that the metaverse, you can do whatever you want to, you can go wherever you want to, you can transact, you can do mostly everything. But what about us if someone tries to steal not only our money or our data, what about our identity, Mariona? It's something ready for that, or it's something that we have to start doing now?
Well, I think that several risks needed to be addressed if the metaverse becomes successful. And on the top two, for me, it's the data privacy and the cybersecurity. Okay, and followed by the ethics and we talked about that, the regulatory compliance and technology limitation, right? To me, there is no such thing as 100% secure. Not one now, and not will be in the metaverse. So there will be some cases of fraud and other cyber crimes, right? The key will be to detect and identify fraudsters so that they can be stopped as soon as possible. Tools and solutions already exist nowadays to do this in today's digital environment, right? Like we talk about biometrics in particular, that I think that will play a key role in this fight. In terms of data privacy, there are already legal initiatives, but we already talked that we have to improve this and protect the user, right? And the balance is that this balance between technology and regulation, right? That there is an increasing tension between the evolution of technology and the ability of the legislation to regulate it, right? But as more and more financial services and companies spread into the metaverse, legislation will have to cover them as well. There are some sectors, like why I mentioned the finance services, because they are regulated. Once they came into the metaverse regulation will have to also do something there, right? So the security of metaverse is linked to the security of internet. How we operate securely nowadays in internet using technology that allows us to stop fraud and stop cyber crimes, right? So it's going to be a migration of this technology and an evolution of this technology along with the regulation.
So we got mostly covered. We need the regulation too. But as Isabelle said, SMEs have the key in Europe, but people want to go to the metaverse, and there are several challenges that. Monica, from a legal side, which challenges we have right now if someone is going to the metaverse, what they have to think prior to that and before doing any kind of step, prevent, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I completely agree with Mariona. It is true that the metaverse presents an enormous opportunity of business and investment, but for this to be possible, the products or services developed must be able to comply with applicable law. And we're in a very uncertain scenario, but what can I say right now is that a lot of the rules that are applied today in the real world, in the physical space, will be applied in the metaverse. At least at the moment, that we don't have this Metaverse Act that Isabelle was talking about, that maybe we'll have in the future. But yes, the rules in many cases will be the same as in the physical space. But in others, we will need to adapt the current regulation due to the peculiarity of the products or services. For instance, NFTs or DAOs, we don't have any regulation that can be interpreted or adapted to them. So the point that we are right now is that in Europe, there is still not a specific regulation because there is not a specific definition of any of these kind of entities. So first of all, we will need to define it. And then once that we define and we all agree, at least in Europe, we will start with the regulation around them. So it is therefore very, very important to analyze each case individually. In short, the goal from my perspective is always to know how to use the regulation in a competitive way and as a business ally in order to promote the sustainable and safe growth of the sector. So there are a lot of legal implications regarding the metaverse, but mainly I think that for sure privacy and data governance, national and European digital rights. Now we have in Europe and in Spain the European Digital Rights Act, also artificial intelligence regulation that Isabelle was talking about. Now it's not, we don't have the green light yet, but we will need to comply with it when it becomes forcible. Also intellectual and industrial property rights, competition and consumer law, and of course, all the applicable law depending on the framework of action and sector. So something that is very important to take into account is that if we want to be sustainable in the long term and not just like a marketing headline that we all know that is very common nowadays, the key is to use regulation, first of all, before implementation and as a competitive and business ally.
Yeah, so we got that point that we need that regulation that to become a serious market that everyone could invest, because security is one of the first things that any kind of investor asks before entering into a new area. So Isabelle, you said that the Meta Act or the Metaverse Act will be the next one, but do you think that all these kind of definitions of characteristics could be included in the next regulation that European Union could modify regarding data, regarding cyber security? Do you think that it's something on the table, or we have to wait 3, 4, or 5 years until we got 100% a whole regulation regarding the metaverse?
So first of all, I want to say that this Metaverse Act is an internal joke we have.
No, yeah. No, I totally understand, but I'm just guessing if that it's coming in the near future, no matter the name.
So I would first say to the scientific community and to industry as well, let's not repeat the same mistakes as we did in the past with these groundbreaking technologies. No, we become crazy when, for instance, when artificial intelligence was born and so on, and let's do algorithms, let's do crazy things. So first we focused on the technology, and 10 years later, 15 years later, we are starting to focus on ethical aspects and what we call trustworthiness and so on. So let's not repeat the same mistake. Let's take into account ethical stuff from the very beginning. Let's try to start thinking about regulation since the metaverse starts. And I would say, well, at least for AI, we talk about the key pillars of artificial intelligence, but I truly believe it can be extended to any kind of technology. So these pillars are, for instance, trustworthiness, to have trustworthy systems, systems that are reliable, robust, with data governance, as Mónica said, the mechanisms behind, also systems that do not discriminate people. I mean, race, aspects such as non-discrimination to the certain demographic or underrepresented groups, such as, I don't know, Black people, Latin people, LGBTQ community, and so on. This is very, very important to take into account.
So, and in this situation, the only thing that we can do is use the current regulation or the things that we already know or we already adapted to this. And one of these things that this year, well, this past year, 2021, has been the word of the year for the Collins Dictionary was, what's an NFT? And in this case, Mariona, do you think that NFTs will have a new role regarding identity of that, or it's something that it's more like a fashion thing that we're just buying and selling NFTs? You know, the blockchain technology is there too, but in the metaverse, has sense to talk about identity with using NFTs or not?
It's an interesting question. I think that it was Bill Gates, no, that said that NFTs is
it's foolish. Yeah, yesterday.
Okay. I didn't want to say.
I say they say.
You say it for me. Perfect. Yeah, and I'm partially agree with this description. No, but if we all became a digital version of ourselves, we will have to demonstrate that we are in different ecosystems within the metaverse, right? And how do we create a fully fledged identity in this environment, right? And one answer could be through the NFTs. NFTs act as a blockchain-based digital property, enabling decentralized ownership of non-physical assets. I think it's maybe I can explain it not more, but NFC it's basically a non-physical asset and it's based on blockchain technology to demonstrate the ownership. Okay, so far they have focused on art, but they could store a person's own identity in the metaverse using the same technology, right? NFTs would allow people to prove that they are really them, and moreover, they could have an identity that could be used or that could own and use in different ecosystems. No? In this way, any social and economic interaction in the virtual world would be easier and above all safer and more reliable, right? But we will see. It's just an so if I have to pick some systems, some technology that can prove the identity, would be NFTs. And I could be completely wrong, but it's a good way to demonstrate the identity.
That's sure. That's good to know. And Monica, do you think that anyone, with all the things that we're explaining about virtual reality, artificial intelligence, anyone can live without being in the metaverse in the following years? It's something mandatory to be there, or we have an alternative? I'm just saying because I've never got a social media platform until 1 year ago. I haven't never got Facebook or anything, and I could be living in this world, but I think that metaverse is something much bigger than that.
Well, very good question. It surprised me because you are very active in LinkedIn, so it's surprising.
That's why I'm on LinkedIn because I lost a bet 1 year and a half, and the bet I said, well, I pay whatever dinner you want to, I pay whatever drinks, the drinks around the house. Say, no, Kim, you have to open a LinkedIn account and post every single day for 2 years. And I said, well, I guess I don't know what I could say, and I started saying the stupid things about blockchain, cryptos, and so on. But it was a bet because I don't like this. It was a bet. My word. I always face my debts, and that is something I do. And I have to admit that if I could live without being in that world, that would be much better. I love my tranquility of being in my life.
I'm glad they asked you just to post on LinkedIn and not like, I don't know, tie your head of like things or something.
No, thanks. I've done worse things in the past. I'm not gonna say that because we are in a serious panel, but for sure in another time I will explain you that.
The next bet you lose, maybe we ask you to be in TikTok.
Yeah,
that's not bad, Mariona.
I'm a good dancer. Then I could do something great there.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
Well, to be or not to be in the metaverse. Well, I think that it will depend on the person and the sector, but we can just compare it with the internet. Can we live now without internet? I think that 90% of the population right now cannot. However, not the metaverse that we know right now. But we need to, I don't know, like we need to overcome the usefulness and ease of use for customers challenge that the metaverse have right now. So usability will mostly came from ease of use, and usefulness will come from various content and apps that consumers can experience in the multiple metaverse. For consumers, it means that it is worth spending time and money on playing, buying, transacting, interacting with content and collaborating with others in the metaverse. So the question is, what kind of devices and use cases will be developed to make the metaverse indispensable. So it is clear to me that in 10 years from now, there will be nothing that we cannot do, like for a few, that we will use the metaverse for an everyday. So, but it will depend on the sector. It's like right now, like for example, we use the mail, the instant messaging, social media platforms. But if we go to Fiji, no one will be using the internet in the same way that we are doing right now. So I think it will depend. But again, technology evolves very fast, and new generations are coming, and they are just digital natives, not even digital natives, but virtual natives. So let's see how can we adapt to it.
Sure.
And also, yeah, I just forgot about something that is interesting about it being in the metaverse, something indispensable or something that we can not do without it. I think that is very important to overcome the challenge of interoperability. So once the metaverse will be interoperable with other platforms, as we know the internet right now, that we can go from one page to another app as the HTML protocol allows us to do that. I think that we need to find this kind of protocol for the metaverse, so we reach the fully interoperability for the metaverse.
So if we got this fully or potentially fully interoperability in different platforms, I think that we'll need just one identity that will cross over to one side to another. So it's that possible. We will have to got every single day or every single week a new identity for each platform. Mariona, is that even possible with the technology that we already know to implement something like that in the metaverse? Or we have to receive every single morning WhatsApp that's saying, okay, let's jump once again, take a selfie, take a lovely selfie at 8 o'clock in the morning to say that you are who you are.
If you have to do this every time, I think that no one is going to enter into the metaverse. No, if the friction is too high, then the people won't enter. No, at the end, it's gonna work like every time that we enter in our bank application, or or any of platforms that we used to use. So maybe just using a quick face recognition that in a second is authentication that you are Joaquim, and you can start operating in the metaverse, right? So I guess that first you will need to enroll yourself using some physical aspects like biometrics, and also maybe some ID. And that provides that you are who you are. But once you've done it, I think that the authentication has to be easy and within a second, right? Also, the famous e-wallet that several governments are working on is a way to use it for entering into these spaces.
So if we got that wallet, we got our identification, then we got our avatar. That those days we've seen it that it's more like a cartoon. I'm sure that in the future will be 100% realistic view of ourselves. Isabelle, is that possible that our avatar could identify ourselves to third parties? That could be an option. I'm not sure we're talking about more about sci-fi than regulation, but I'm sure that you are in this think tanks and good places that think that some alternative to do that. Is that possible with artificial intelligence and all these data and all these algorithms that we're using those days too?
Nowadays, it is totally possible to scan with a simple webcam your whole body and recreate a virtual version, super photorealistic version of yourself, or to upload a couple of pictures to an algorithm, and then the algorithm build from these pictures your 3D virtual representation, super photorealistic, that could even allow for face recognition in the virtual world. Why not? This on the one hand. On the other hand, I was thinking about. I'm not a big fan of photorealism in virtual worlds. I prefer avatars. for many reasons. One reason is as stupid as the uncanny valley. I don't know if you're familiar with this term of the uncanny valley. No, it's like, ooh, it's have a virtual representation of yourself, super photorealistic, but it's not human, so it's really weird and it's creepy. So in the end, I think it's better to use representations of ourselves that are more cartoonish. And indeed, there are several user studies in academia that conclude that users prefer cartoon-like avatars than photorealistic avatars. On the other hand, coming back to face recognition in the traditional way, as Mariona was saying, no? Now we enter to our bank application or even some e-government applications. In France, for instance, they have the ALICE system, and you authenticate with your face and you enter an e-government application or your bank application and so on. We're used to it. And yes, why not? It could be used as well in the metaverse. But now I'm thinking about the logistics of our life, no? Every day. So we will have these 3D virtual glasses that are occluding half of the face. So we have to remove the glasses, authenticate, put the mobile, then put the glasses, and so on. So I'm thinking about the usability of this thing and the user experience. And also wondering, exactly. I'm wondering, will we have a room in our house devoted to the metaverse so that we can put all these devices and these crazy stuff, haptic devices, brain-computer interfaces that are indeed a very interesting technology for the metaverse as well. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about the logistics of our daily lives. No?
Completely agree. And the hardwares and everything will have to evolve also. So yeah, 100%.
Well, I think that we just covered mostly all the topics I want to talk. We got 12 minutes left. I don't know if there's any questions from the public. So please feel free to post anything that you will need to know of these three magnificent panelists. If not, I will ask you a question to one of you, well, to the three of you. What will be the first thing that you will do if you jump into the metaverse? It said that the metaverse is 100% walking and it's 100% almost realistic. What would be the first thing that you will do in your spare time? We're not talking about business side. I don't know, Mariona, what will be the first thing?
The personal.
Yeah, I don't know. Now imagine that the metaverse is fully working. That's everything. It's the first time. Once you all got already identified, you take the glasses, you put the glasses, you all this kind of thing that Isabelle explained carefully. And now you jump into, we would say there's just one metaverse. It's a whole metaverse. We got all the things that we can do. What will be the first thing that you will do?
Probably try to go to a live concert, or live digital concert, or live music, performance, to see how is the feeling, no? Being alone in a room, but feeling like I'm with thousands of people with me, right?
For me, I have clear that I will jump. Like I would like to jump from the Everest. And to have the feeling, because I know that I'm not gonna die. So I would love to have the feeling. I've seen this video of Mark Zuckerberg with a friend because he was like climbing, and it was like I was seeing, like watching it just in the 2D screen. But for me, it would be amazing just to be like in a mountain, something like that, and jump with the feeling that nothing is gonna happen. Yeah,
that's a very, very, very good point. I hadn't think about it. Yeah, from my side, I for real, I know for sure that the first thing I will do is we researchers travel a lot. Now I have been living in many different cities, so I have friends here and there. The first thing and geek friends, especially because I'm a techie person, and we'll be all connected to the metaverse and join. I mean, we will for sure meet in a room and feel this telepresence, full immersive telepresence, and being together and so on. Also, I would like to try these haptic devices that you can hug your friends and feel the hug and so on.
Yeah.
From a more romantic perspective and scientific perspective. Romantic and scientific, interesting. Yeah, one of the experiments I have in mind it's we are very concerned, no, in my group in Humane, about non-discrimination, and I would like to build an immersive experience where we have gender balance, racial balance, and put people in these environments and in these diverse environments and feel how diversity, fully balanced diversity and would look like, no? For instance, in this panel, I mean, it's totally fine, but okay, we are more than, we are gender balanced. This is good, but we are not racially balanced. No, I would like to see an Asian person, a Black person, and a white person together, an Indian person. So I think that the metaverse will foster diversity, hopefully, and I want to do experiments in that sense.
Very interesting.
I think it's great. Yeah, that's public that say that we go to safari and play with all the animals. It's a good answer too, Dana. So I don't know if there's anyone that have any question to ask to anyone. If not, I think that we've done a great roundtable. It will take hours. From my side, it has been a pleasure to have all three here, and this, I think it's the first time that it's a roundtable with 3 women related to technology. That's something that we must point it out, that it's something that has to be more, because usually it's not the case. So I think it's good point too.
Indeed, we are here, women in technology and doing cutting edge technology, and yeah, we are definitely here. So listen to us and invite us.
You're here to stay for sure. And from my side, it's been really interesting. It has been really inspiring. Lots of topics that I've never heard it before. I heard it for a long time. It's really interesting to know more about how the European regulation are working on this artificial intelligence, how the business that will gonna start, and how you are dealing with no regulation, but you have to help your clients to do so. And also all this security and the digital twin. What's these new concepts that will be in the following 2 or 3 years? So the public, it's reacting. That very insightful, very interesting. So congratulations to the all 3, Mariona, Mónica, Isabelle. It has been a pleasure from my side. I hope to see you soon in person, and to thank you very much for your time, and thank you to the whole audience. It's been a pleasure. It's the last roundtable of the Metaverse, but for sure the next roundtables and new chapters of technology will be great too. Thank you very much for your time, and have a lovely afternoon.